Tonight, our show is about working with adult crayons. Yes, there's such a thing as crayons, but they're for adults. And they are actually a a professional artist material. And there are many different companies that make various types of adult crayons, but the one I'm going to be showing you tonight is the type of crayon that is a light fast. So, in terms of an artist and wanting to be sure that the artwork that you're creating is going to have longevity, you want to choose a product that has light fastness. Now, there are plenty of them out there that are not light fast or that don't tell you the light fast ratings. And so, hey, Wilson Mitchell over on YouTube, welcome in, welcome in. And so some of them do not have a light fastness rating on their packaging. And if that's the case, you can expect that they are more for crafting than they are for a professional artist. But if your intention is to create an artwork, scan it, and sell the prints, then of course the adult crayons that are for that are not rated for light fastness are perfectly fine for that type of artwork. What I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, though, are these by Caran, which is a company out of, I think, Geneva, Switzerland. And these are their NeoColor IIs. They make NeoColor IIs. And of course, since they're NeoColor II, you would expect they make NeoColor Is as well, which they do. And when we get into that part of the show, I'm going to explain to you the difference between the NeoColor I and the NeoColor II and a regular wax pastel or a regular, I'm sorry, oil pastel, because these are actually wax pastels and it's a type of water soluble wax. And then there are other pastels called oil pastels and oil pastel sticks that are also made by Caran. And so I'm going to show you the different variations and what the difference is between those. When I do my workshops, generally I share with you either other artists that are my inspiration, or I will share with you books that I get concepts from that are the inspiration for the workshop. Now, behind me, you see some what I would call extreme mixed media artworks. The one up at the top here is one that I received an award for at a show. And let's see, this one's called Calypso up here because of all the fun colors. This one down here is called Three Martinis because of the little shapes that are in the corner up here. And there's another one over here, which is an extreme mixed media. These are all extreme mixed media paintings. They use, a lot of times I will start with in the background using the Caran markers or crayons, and then I will move on with other acrylics, photographs, pencils, just anything that's at local to me, I will use. So let me pick you up real quick like here, and I'm just going to show you this other piece so you get a gaggle at it. There you go. That's, oh, can I move it far enough? There you go. So you can see that. That's one of my other mixed media pieces, but they start with those bold colors come from these types of markers that I'm showing you. And then I coat them or cover the artworks with a type of varnish so that even if I'm grabbing something that's not perfectly light fast, that can be a trick. By putting the appropriate varnish on top of your artwork, you can make sure that these bright colors are going to last for the next, whatever, 50 or 100 years, right? Long past when I'm going to be gone, okay? These pieces need to have nice, bright colors to them. So some of the artists that inspire me for this kind of like wacko, crazy, out there mixed media artwork are this young lady on, these are going to be, the artists are going to be from Instagram, these images. And I put the Instagram name of the artist here for you. But in the description of the YouTube video, I always put links to my inspiration artists and my inspiration books if I've used books. So, don't worry that you have to grab a screenshot when you come back to my page. If you follow me on YouTube and then you look under the live tab, you can always get these links from the description of the video. So those links will be up sometime tomorrow. But what I love about this, remember I said last week we did scribbles for mixed media artwork. Well, here you go. Scribbles for mixed media artwork. But the cool thing is that this also used one of these NeoColor crayons that we're going to be exploring tonight. So I just thought this was such a great, quick example of what you can do incorporating scribbling. It's okay to scribble, especially when you're exploring various colors, when you're exploring a particular composition. Scribble, just go for it, do scribbling and cross hatching, and it's a matter of just putting down color and looking at different thumbnail images, meaning smaller images maybe than before you go to a larger piece. And that's what this kind of scribbling can be valuable for. Now, I love this artist. Sarah Jane is her name, right? Sarah Jane Sayer. Sarah Jane Sayer Paints is what she is on Instagram. So this is the same gal, Sarah Jane, and this entire painting is scribbles. Scribbles, scribbles, scribbles. Well, she might have done some fade out up here, but if you look closely, lots of scribbles in there. And the scribbles for the clouds and the scribbles for the plants. I mean, everything is a scribble, and it's all done with these crayons. This is also another one here, like that. Same artist. And what I liked is she created patches of color in the background and then came back on with some bold strokes in black or a dark brown, and then went ahead and filled in spaces created when she did those bold strokes. Now, another thing is, let me see, another thing is this from her. So it's a similar feel for the artwork, but the strokes are a little bit fatter and a little bit more broken. The color is more broken. And the reason for that is in this particular sketch that she did, she's using oil pastels. So I will be showing you and explaining the difference between a crayon, a wax crayon like we're going to be using, and oil pastels. A lot of times people will start with the wax crayon to create a background, and then they'll go on top of it with an oil pastel. So I'll be showing you that. But I wanted you to know that this particular artist also does a lot of professional work with. These are Sennelier brand out of France, oil pastels, and they're amazing. They're amazing, and I have some because they're amazing. Okay, the next artist I have to share with you, whom I've been following for a long time, is Juliet Crane. Juliet Crane. She also teaches a lot of workshops that are available online, so you can check her out, Juliet Crane. But I just love how loose and whimsical her artworks are, and you can see all the play. A lot of this, she will actually get paint on her fingers, like acrylic paint, and then she'll go in and she'll dot all over the place with her fingers. She also goes in with the oil pastels and the NeoColors I'll be showing you, and does this kind of work here with those. So it's just so delightful to look at her artworks. And then, oh, here is another one by Juliet Crane. So you can kind of get a feel for somebody's, the way that they do their artwork, or the feel of their artwork by looking at multiple subjects. So here is her little owls or birds that she does. Isn't it funny how she does an owl, but she puts like human eyes on them? Isn't that fun? And but you can see all the mark making that's going on here, and the kind of markers I'm showing you today are great for that. Another artist that I was introduced to by some other folks, this is Phenomenal by Betty Frank Art, or Betty Franks, I'm sorry, with an S on it. Betty Franks Art. So again, lots of, it's just all about the color. Very abstracted, uh, just beautiful colors together and lots of mark making. So a lot of her artwork has to do with just putting color down and mark making. And so here's another set that she did, and she loves working with the crayons, whether it's the NeoColor crayons or the other ones that I'm going to show you. She loves working with the crayons to go on top and make those final marks. So here is another set that she did, and what I found interesting about this set is that it's black in the background. So she created, she either put black in part of it, or she covered the whole background with black first, and then came on with her color in order to get real drama. She made sure the colors she put on top were very opaque, and I love the drama with the black in the background. And I've actually created a a surface where I used black gesso so that we can take a look at that together and do it tonight. So here is another one from Betty Franks. And the interesting thing is there's the NeoColor right there in her hand as she's working with it. And she says it's one of her 3 favorite mark making tools is the NeoColor crayons. And then lastly, before I show you a couple of books, is the artist Jane Davenport. So I don't know if you've been following Jane. If you haven't discovered her yet, she's fabulous. Her name is Jane Davenport. She's in Australia, and she develops different types of art materials. Oh my gosh, she's just so incredibly creative. I love her stuff. And the reason I picked this particular image from her Instagram is there's a lot of line work here and here. So that line work, when the line work looks broken, meaning it's not a clean line. When the line looks like it has breaks in it, often that's because you're putting a crayon or an oil pastel on top of a textured surface. But you can even see here in the eyes how she used it. And the NeoColor IIs that I'm going to be showing you tonight are water soluble, meaning you can hit them with a brush and get diffused color. But you can also use them just as a wax crayon in order to do outlining and this kind of mark making line work as well. So that's what this piece of hers shows. And then I thought this was very inventive from Jane, where she's doing her work, but she's doing it on an old book page, an old book. So I have a book from, I think it's the 1940s here, and it's an old book of poetry that I got. It's one of those things where it's from a library where they have their sales, or maybe it was at somebody's estate sale, and I picked it up um, specifically to use for artwork, to take poetry out of it, and because it's almost falling apart. If I love using old books that are falling apart. Normally, they would literally go in the trash heap and be burned. Normally, but I take them, even though this is broken right here, like the spine is broken, this surface right here, which is the cover of the book, will become, this will get cut off eventually, and this will become a background for me to create a piece of mixed media art on. And then the pages on the inside I use all the time for collage, so you can see where There are many pages torn out of the spine here, and I use them for collage. And tonight, if we get time, will create something inside one of these book pages, and then that becomes a finished piece of artwork, like she did here. And some people like to recover old books that have a good cover to them, not falling apart, and use those to create a journal in. And they'll take several pages of them because the pages are very flimsy. They'll take several pages and glue them together to get a sturdier surface to paint on. And then they'll actually use that book as one of their journals. That's a fun thing to do too. So this again is Jane Davenport, and I wanted to show you her book, Beautiful Faces. So this is her book about how to draw beautiful faces, which is one of the main things that she does is beautiful women. And in this particular book, there are sections. There is a section here. She talks about what she would call pastels. But I call them pastels. So this is a whole cup full of these types of pastels. So let me grab one out so you can see what I mean. So that is an adult crayon, and there's a whole cup full of them right there, and she's describing what those are. And then there's another section of the book. Ooh, let's find it. One of the many things I love about this book is the way she breaks down the steps for you in her projects that are in the book. She does an excellent job of breaking it down. So here she talks about you can even use your own face. That's Jane. Hi, Jane. And create like a line drawing in your apps or on the computer, and then use that as inspiration for drawing faces as well if you want to do kind of a self-portrait. But I love the way she breaks down her steps. Fantastic. And then here she's actually doing a project. So this beautiful face right here. And she's doing this project where she is using in here, she's actually using these exact type of pencils or crayons in order to create her artwork. So you can just think of this as a solid stick of pigment, and it is water soluble, but it's artist grade. Phenomenal. They are just great. Can't help it. Oh, they're fantastic. So I highly recommend her book, Beautiful Faces. Very, very inspirational. So in this book, the 101 mixed media techniques, which I highly recommend, especially if you're starting out painting, because, imagine there are so many different techniques in here. But what I like about it is that they do give you excellent graphics and then descriptions and step-by-steps as well. This is a painting here where they're talking about using these water-soluble wax pastels. And this is an example of the type of brightness you can get out of these kind of pastels. All right, there isn't a whole section in here on using the NeoColor II, but I did find that was a nice example in there. But there are lots of other mixed media painting techniques that are in the book that are excellent. So I highly recommend it. Now, also, besides the artists that I'm showing you for inspiration, the books will be listed in the description of the YouTube video. After the video is over, I'll go in and add those to the description so that you'll be able to find the books. All right, let's set those aside. Ooh, all those goodies right now. And let's talk about some of the supplies that we'll be using for the projects tonight. And the first one, of course, is our NeoColor II adult crayons. that are fabulous. They actually come in 84 colors. They used to have about 120 colors, but they've pared them down now to 84 colors. And it's going to say on there, NeoColor II, Caran. Then there's NeoColor I are the non-soluble wax pastels. So these, it actually says right on the package here, water soluble. And that's important to know because not all oil pastels or wax pastels are water soluble. So tonight we're going to be working with the NeoColor II water soluble version, but I did want you to know that there is out there. And so to watch for it if you're buying them open stock, meaning if you're buying individual sticks, you want to be careful that you're not getting, oh, let me turn it so you can see, NeoColor I. Do you see where it has the 1 right there? That's NeoColor I. So this NeoColor, hey Craft Owl, welcome in over on Whatnot. So this NeoColor stick, which they are just fabulous because they're just chock full of pigment. They are so beautiful and they have nice light fastness as well for professional artists. The thing with these are they are not water soluble. All right, so the regular NeoColor ones are not water soluble, and I actually keep mine separate. The NeoColor ones go together with my oil pastels, and then the NeoColor twos go with my items that are water soluble. Wax pastel is going to be harder and not as creamy, meaning it won't blend as well as an oil pastel. So this Neo pastel right here, like this, also made by Caran, the same company, is an oil pastel. It's a stiffer oil pastel, but the main ingredient instead of being wax is oil. All right, and so made by the same company, and they're fabulous. Okay, all of the ones from them are fabulous. They're an excellent company. They make beautiful art supplies, and I would highly recommend any of the Caran um, products. They have pencils, they have colored pencils. All of them I have found to be excellent, excellent quality. But you just need to know what the properties of each one of those different art supplies are so that you know how to apply them to get the outcome or the look that you want, right? Okay, so let's put those aside. Now, I did want to show you the difference then between the water soluble NeoColor IIs. So here I have a stick right here. Looks like a beautiful crayon. And something I've shown you before is this, which is a woody. They call them woodies by Stabilo. Um, and this is also a water-soluble wax stick, wax crayon. And the difference is this is made for artists. This was originally designed for children. So these woodies do not have the light fastness rating that as an artist I would be looking for to create finished artwork. They're still excellent and they are so much fun. And actually, the artist Betty Franks that I showed you earlier, she said this is one of her favorite art supplies along with the NeoColors. So there is a place for it. And as I said, if you are varnishing your artworks, then you can control whether they are affected by UV rays or not. And so you absolutely, and I do a lot, can use these woodies in your artwork as well. You see that the tip is a little more chunky than the NeoColor tip. Both of these are water-soluble media. And then another water-soluble crayon here is by Marabou, so a company out of Germany. And these are cool because you twist the back end of it and it pushes up. And this has a much wider tip to it. and I wrote a whole article about these in my blog on my website. So you can go get information about these if you like. They're also water soluble, but as you can see, the top is much larger than the NeoColor, like that, right? Um, but there's no light fastness rating on any of these. So if you use them, you would use them to create your artwork and then scan your artwork for prints, or you would have to make sure that you put some sort of UV resistant or protectant varnish on top of that. Here are the 84 colors, a chart with the 84 colors that the NeoColor II is available in. So it comes in currently 84 colors. And this color chart, I have a link to it. I have a link to it in the article that is going to appear on my website. So if you do want to get yourself this color chart, there'll be a link to it in the article at deetsart.com in my blog post. But the set that we are using today was gifted to me by a dear friend of mine because I was complaining to her that when I moved, I lost track of my NeoColors. Like, how can that happen? How can I lose track of my NeoColors? Well, I moved across the coast from the East Coast to the West Coast of Florida. And, I can't take all of my art supplies with me in my car, so I had to ship a bunch of them, and I have no idea where my NeoColors are, but I love my NeoColors and I love using them. And so my dear friend sent me this set of 15 because she knew I was complaining and going crazy that I didn't know where they were, but I didn't want to buy more because I have a lot of them somewhere in this house or somewhere in storage. Is making me crazy. Um, Now, also, you'll have the link to download from the article on my website. When this workshop is over, and the video is finished, so tomorrow or the next day, I will be going in and putting the links for this color chart. So there is going to be a link for the full color chart like this, where you can see the color, what it looks like and the color number, and also the light fastness I had mentioned to you earlier. The light fastness rating for every color is on this chart, and that's something that professional artists are looking for, as well as there is a link to this, which is a blank chart that I filled in with the colors that were in my set. Now, the folks at Caran is the name of the company, and the NeoColor II water soluble sets come in 10, like you can buy a 10 like this with 10, 15, which is what this one is, 40, and 84. And so there on the Caran website, you can download the blank color chart for each one of those sets if you want to do this, which is take your colors out of your set and put them onto a color chart for yourself. And then each one of these says what the light fastness rating is. So for instance, the yellow is 3 stars, which is excellent, up to 100 years light fastness. Let me see if there are any that have 2 stars. Yes, the one here that says orange has 2 stars. What does 2 stars mean? 2 stars mean, so this is kind of standard across the industry. There are different companies that have like a 1, 2, 3, 4 or a 1 through 10 light fastness scale, but if they're using the stars, generally 3 stars means excellent, 100 years light fastness, they say under museum conditions, not in bright sunlight. In other words, treat your art well, people, treat your art well. This one, the orange, which has 2 stars, means 25 to 100 years. So that it'll be light fast for 25 to 100 years. And then if it has 1 star, like right here where it says violet, and it has 1 star, that's usually 25 to 50 years. All right. So that's what that light fastness rating means. And some artists only use art supplies with an excellent light fastness. Otherwise, they don't use them if they're going to be selling their artwork for big money. If you're, as I mentioned earlier, making your artwork, hey there, Pink Snow Beach, welcome in, welcome in. And Lady Fingers Luna over on Whatnot, welcome in. If you're making your artwork to scan, put on products, or to sell the prints, it doesn't matter what the light fastness is. Doesn't matter at all. Because you don't need to keep that artwork in pristine condition for the next 100 years, right? You're scanning it and you're using your beautiful imagery now, today. And so, if that's the case, your concern needs to be the inks that are used in your printing process to be sure that you are getting a print that will last, right? And so, for instance, this color chart, I do my printing and I print my prints on, is that a new piece behind you with the ribbon? Hey, Salmon's girl. Um, the piece behind me with the ribbon is called Calypso. I did it in about 2012, I think. And this is a that direction. That was I had put it into a show, and so it won judges recognition during the show. So thank you for asking. I appreciate it. And I don't have the photography for them yet to put them up on my store, but I will. I will soon. Now that they're on the wall, I can photograph them and put them into my store, right? Uh, but they are, I call these extreme mixed media. You notice there's lots of color, lots of mark making, and I used these NeoColor IIs as well as other water soluble mediums and acrylics to create these paintings and markers. Like you see the white on here, that white is an acrylic marker. So I get to know all of my supplies, and then I know when and how to apply them to my mix, what layer of my mixed media artwork am I going to put them on. And that's what I hope to share with you. Mr. Zane over on YouTube says, are you an artist? Yes, I'm an artist, and these are some of my artworks. And I love to teach about art too, because it gives me an excuse to buy new paints, right? And new types of paints. All right, I was talking about the printing. If you don't have to worry about light fastness if you're going to be scanning and using the artwork to print. Case in point, let me show you a piece here that is from that I did, and then scan the image. So here is my safari elephant and all these bright colors back behind it here. These bright colors that I used were watercolor inks, so fluid watercolors. They are not light fast. And so I have the original of this painting, and this purple color, almost all gone. And the painting is only a couple years old. So that's where I say, when you create your artwork, if you're taking good photographs or scanning them, then you want to print them with the proper inks also for your prints. So the original is what's faded, but I have the proper photographs so that I can have good quality ink to print them with. And my favorite printer and inks is the Epson printer, so Epson. And Epson makes these massive um, printers for the print business, for people who do print on demand and everything. They use massive Epson printers for that. But I have a little Epson printer in my studio here, and that's what I use to print with. So not only is it important to have inks that will last a long time, but it's also important to have inks when you print that are water safe, meaning I can work back on top of my surface with water and it will not disturb the inks that are on the paper. So I always use Epson paper with Epson inks. If you use other brand papers, they can't guarantee, and I can tell you from experience, the ink doesn't get imbued in the surface of the paper so that when you get it wet, the inks can run. HP printers, I gave those up a long time ago because they do not have water safe inks in them. And if you use an HP um, inkjet printer and you get it wet, that color is going to run all over the place. But with an Epson printer, that does not happen. So for instance, here, I printed this twice, and this is on the matte, the photo type matte paper from Epson. So it's called matte premium presentation paper. They also have just a regular matte paper, but either one of them are phenomenal for printing your prints because I find the colors show up better and are more saturated when you put them on a good quality matte finish paper. So here, this is all matte finish, and then I can draw right on top of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful paper. And what I did was I printed that out twice, and then I used a Sharpie to put a line through it. And that's because the NeoColor IIs are water soluble. That's what the aquarelle there means. They're water soluble. So when we go over top of the table, we're going to add water to these so you can see what the transparency or opaqueness of them are. Hey there, S. Diedrich. Welcome in, welcome in. Thanks for joining me on a Labor Day evening. Tonight we are talking about NeoColor II by Caran. NeoColor II are water-soluble wax crayons. Oh, they are so much fun to create with. Now here I showed you, these are and the links will be in the article on my website to print this off if you want to do the same thing that I did here. Now, you don't have to get that fancy. This is just my favorite Michael's cheap. And when I say cheap, I mean cheap watercolor paper. But it's 90 pounds and it's excellent. It's very good watercolor paper for doing things like this, which is drawing with the NeoColors, the wax crayons, the adult wax crayons, and then using a little bit of water on it. So here you can see the wax crayon and then the effect when you add water to it. And that's just on an inexpensive watercolor paper. Now, if you want to get a little more fancy, then you can get yourself one of these, which is a painter's diary, right? What does it say? Yep, painter's color diary. So this actually has little blocks inside it, and I'll show you the inside here, like this. So it has little blocks and it has that black line already across there so you can look at the opacity, and you put up here what it is that you're testing or swatching, and then you do your swatches. In this case, I did a combination of dry swatch and wet swatch, and you can see this is very transparent, and down here this is very opaque, right? But you can see that. And then for the white, what I did was used a marker and put the black in there. But unfortunately, I was in a hurry. Imagine that. I was in a hurry. And so this picked up some of the black when I was doing the white. Oh, well, it is what it is. It's always the thing, right? When you're testing out white, you need to have a dark background instead of a light background. But this is the painter's color diary. I will have a link to this in the description of the YouTube video once the workshop is over, and I add that in there for you, okay? I'll be sure that you have that. All right, because it's handy for all different kinds of paints. That's what I like about the painter's color diary, is that I can have different brands of paints in there and the swatches from the different brands. All right, let's talk about what surfaces we're going to use to put these paints on. and they are considered a wax pastel. So even though they're water soluble, you don't have to apply water to them. Let me show you some test pieces that I did for this show. So this is watercolor paper, and I was using it straight from the tip and dipping the tip in water, which is one of the techniques you can use. So for instance, here I had this, and I was getting it wet in water and then applying it directly onto here in little swirls for a cloud study. I know it doesn't really look like clouds, but I'll tell you what I was using as my inspiration was I asked for an AI version of pink, purple, blue um, fantasy clouds, and this is what I got. And so I was using this image and taking that image and working something similar to it. Not exactly like it, right? Takes some practice to get clouds. Believe it or not, you think clouds should be a piece of cake and easy to do? They're not. They take a lot of practice. Yes, Zach's laughing over on YouTube. Exactly. So this is like a white paper background, and it's a textured paper background because it's watercolor, cold press watercolor. And this was dipped into water and then put on there like that. So there's actually texture inherent in the paper, and that's why you see a lot of texture up here when I got this NeoColor wet and started moving it around with a brush. Now, this is black paper, black sketch paper. And so this is actually from a photograph that I took. So I have a million reference photos that I take that I store, and I call them art inspiration as a file on my computer. And then when I think about a subject, whether it's koi fish or sunsets or um, insects, grasshoppers, whatever it happens to be, I have those saved in a file called art inspiration. And those are a combination of mostly my own pictures, but also some other pictures that I find that are royalty free on the internet. So here's a photograph that what I love is it's out of focus. I like artwork, or I like pictures that are out of focus so that you're not trying to be exact in what you're doing. You're trying to just get the essence of the picture when you're painting. So this is out of focus, but I was driving down the road and I loved the way the sunset looked with the blue clouds up here. So I snapped a picture from my car just out the front, right? And um, as inspiration for art making. So here is the painting that I did with it. And I used these NeoColor II as wax crayons in this painting, and I did not add water. Why? Because it's on a black background. And if you add water to a black background, it's just going to soak into the black and you're not even going to see the color. Hold on, I dropped one. So that is why I wanted to show you this, that you don't have to use water with them. You can use them as just a wax pastel stick by themselves like that without having to add water. Now, if I wanted to, I could go in and add water, but like I said, it doesn't make sense on a black background like that. Now, also, if you just want to use them as a wax pastel without water, then you can use your typical dry pastel papers. So this is a grayscale by Strathmore, meaning that there are these different colors of gray and, to dark gray here in this pad. And this is a pastel painting pad. It has texture to it. It has an interesting texture. Here's a piece that I've been working on. I was working on last year. This is with soft pastel, not with these wax pastels. But what I wanted to show you is you see how the texture of the paper is showing through. So there's a lot of paper texture that shows through. This is the grayscale set. And then it also comes in an assorted colors set. So that last one was from Strathmore. This is from Canson. Hey, check the attic. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome into Tristina's attic. And so this one has a different collection of colors, like see the blue there, gray, orange, kind of a yellowish. So this is a nice all-around set if you want to try working on what's called a toned surface. This is the watercolor that for this one, where I was showing you the light grain in here, is actually Canson, which is my favorite all-around studio pad. The Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds down here, 140 pounds. So it's a good medium weight, all around excellent, especially if you're messing around and discovering it. And I had mentioned a couple weeks ago that these were on sale at Blick. I mean, and that they, or to watch for sales at Blick. And the next day I got an email saying, hey, 2 for 1. So watch for the 2 for 1s from Blick of these Canson XLs, because that's when I pick them up. I mean, there are 36, look, there are 36 pages in here. So imagine getting 2 for 1. You have plenty of paper to last you for a while. My other favorite studio watercolor paper is by Fabriano, and it is their hot press watercolor paper. So what does hot press mean? Hot press means that the surface of the paper is smooth instead of having texture. So especially when you're working with something like these crayons, which are more hard, you may not want a textured paper. You may want this to go onto a smooth paper. And so a hot press watercolor paper works for that. Now, this is some of the testing that I'm going to share with you a little bit later, but I did want you to know that this paper it's heavy, it's 140 pounds, but it's also smooth on it. So that's perfect. Love the smoothness of it. Now, Fabriano, the company I just showed you, also makes a paper called a mixed media paper. So this is their Fabriano mixed media paper. What I love about this is, check this out. This is a huge block of paper. How many are in here? 150 sheets. So you talk about value. This is an excellent value right here. So this is Fabriano mixed media paper, 150 sheets. It takes dry and wet. So it says right down here, dry and wet media, and it's 108 pounds. So these other ones, like this one, and the Canson 140 pounds, this one is 108 pounds. But it is a mixed media paper, so it can take water media. And I highly recommend that you get one of these packs because they're just phenomenal. Fantastic. And actually what I've done, oops, sorry about that. Actually what I've done with this, oh, Mark Dietz is over on YouTube. Welcome in, welcome in. So what I've done on the mixed media paper is I've taped off, and I have white gesso. So I primed this with white gesso, and I primed this with black gesso, so we can play with our crayons on the light surface and the dark surface at the same time, so you can see how they react. Is that fun? Oh, so much fun. Okay, hold on a moment. Let me set that aside. I have lots of things here. Now, if you do a lot of marker work, like some people work quite a bit with markers, then you may already have on hand something called Bristol paper. Bristol paper is a smooth paper that's in general used for, as you can see on here, pen and pencil work. However, some of them, and this one in particular by Statler, it says pastel. So remember, there are dry soft pastels, and then there are oil pastels. So sometimes when they say pastel, if it's a paper that's designed for sketching or drawing with dry media, they may mean the dry pastels. And this says pastel, but the very next thing that it says is acrylic. Okay, ding, ding, ding. If it says acrylic, then what that means is that the paper is sufficient to take water media. And so that will let you know that this is a good quality paper, not only for drawing and marker work, but also because it takes acrylic, you can get it wet. And so Bristol is a smooth paper similar to the hot press paper I showed you from Fabriano. Has a slight bit more tooth to it than the Fabriano hot press. And what weight is this? Do they tell you? See, they don't always tell you the weight on the front. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. See, it doesn't tell me the weight on here, which normally if you're an artist, you're looking for the weight of the paper, but I can tell you by feeling it, it's probably similar to that Fabriano mixed media paper, somewhere around 110 pounds. But because it will take water, and these are generally very inexpensive, but a good paper. And then, does anybody know what movie that's from? And then we have top of the line, Sennelier. So the Sennelier from France, the art products are excellent quality, and in general, they're very expensive. So if you see something and it's a Sennelier product and it's inexpensive on whatnot, pick it up. Oh, and then so this is their art card paper. And it is, what's cool is it says here that it's extra strong drawing paper. And it says for oil sticks, oil pastels, acrylic gouache, and ink. And it's acid free paper. Oh my gosh. You talk about top of the line. This is top of the line. And you know what? It comes with a price tag to go with it. So this is a very thick card paper. And it is just phenomenal. Let's see, 340 grams. So a normal 140-pound paper is 300 GSMs. This is 340 GSMs. So it's probably around a 180-pound or so paper. Absolutely beautiful. One of my favorites. I don't use it very often because it's so precious and it's so danged expensive. Now, another surface that we can work on with these crayons is a non-porous plastic or stone surface. So there are special surfaces. This is called Durabrite. And Durabrite is what is it, a polyethylene, I think? Polypropylene. Okay, so it's a film made from polypropylene that it is not water soluble, meaning there's not going to be any bleed through. So you can use this with markers, you can use it with acrylic paint, you can use it with alcohol inks. And a lot of people do their alcohol ink work on a polypropylene surface. And so it's like a translucent, in this case, white. And the cool thing is they've manufactured it with tooth to it. So it has a little bit of tooth, which is perfect for artwork. I mean, beautiful surface. Some other people may know of it as Yupo paper, Y-U-P-O. Yupo is actually a brand name from Legion paper. So this Durabrite is the same composition, polypropylene. It's a type of plastic, but they're both the Yupo paper and this paper are designed to be able to take wet media, which or the dry media, either one. So we can use this either way. And they came out with about 2 years ago. They came out with the gray, which is a beautiful color to work on. And then my other favorite one is the black. So here is the Durabrite in black. And this is some of the messing around that I've done with it. With acrylic markers, and this over here is using the NeoColor. So the NeoColor dry and the NeoColor after I got it wet on there. Beautiful. beautiful surface to work on. But this is plastic. It's called polypropylene is the type of plastic that it is. But there's another kind of um, paper that is not from trees, and it is called mineral paper or stone paper. I've seen it said both ways, and it's actually made from pulverized stone that's then put together with a type of binder. And so this is by Yasutomo, a Japanese company. It's called mineral paper, and it's a mixed media paper. So it has tooth to it and absorption, and so you can use it with all of your different supplies, mixed media supplies. And yes, do I have lots of mixed media supplies? I do. One of the things you want to be sure is whatever paper you're getting for your artwork, that it says acid free. So this actually says acid free right down here. That they need to be sure, the manufacturers, that they're putting a buffer in or something that will counteract the acidity. Like, for instance, pulp from trees is naturally an acidic um, type of material, and they have to buffer it in order to neutralize, or sometimes you'll see it called pH neutral. They need to neutralize that acid in order to get something that is acid free, neutral for you to paint on, so it doesn't degrade over time, because otherwise the paper itself or the surface you're working on will just degrade over time if it's not pH neutral or acid free. All right. But I love this mineral paper. Love, 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 love it. Maybe we'll work on it tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. That's it for the papers. Now, the additional things we're going to be using are markers. So this is an acrylic marker. And what's great about these big chunky acrylic markers like this is the one from Pebeo, this is one from Posca, is that you can lay down a lot of color very quickly and then work on top of it with your NeoColors almost right away because they dry so quickly. And I love that. And then we're going to be looking at some acrylic mediums. So you can actually mix these. You can take the pigment from here and you can mix it together with acrylic mediums. So I have a bunch of different acrylic mediums here, and that was one of the samples that I was showing you earlier, is these pigments from the pigment sticks mixed together with various acrylic mediums. And then another thing is fixatives. So as you're working on your various layers, if you want to fix a layer, and then work on top of that layer with water and not have it reactivate the layer beneath it, then you can spray with a fixative. This is my favorite one, the Degas fixative from, what is it, Spectrafix. But it's helpful to have a fixative to put on your various layers. For instance, the card that I made, this card that I made, these marks that I put on here are with the NeoColor II, and so they're water soluble. So if this card gets wet, these would just, you know, you'd have red paint everywhere. And so when I was finished with the card, I sprayed it with my fixative to help avoid that happening. It's very helpful to have some good fixative on hand. And the cool thing is here, this particular fixative says soft pastel, oil pastel, chalk, Conti, colored crayon, graphite, and charcoal. And then another thing it says on paper, Yupo, canvas, ceramic, etc. So my absolute favorite. I actually have a short on on YouTube showing this fixative because it's my all-time favorite fixative. But there's also the Sennelier oil pastel fixative that's also excellent, but this type of can you have to use outside, and this type of can jar or bottle you can use inside your studio. So I hate to wait for good weather to go outside and do it, so I usually use the pump spray one. We're also going to use brushes, so round brushes, whoops, flat brushes. That describes the top here, the angle brush like this. And we're going to use water brushes. So a water brush is a brush that's empty that you can put water into, and then you have a continuous flow of water to the tip. These are awesome, especially if you want to travel. These are fantastic. And we'll be using some Stabilo all pencils, which I've shown you before. So if you've been on my workshops before, you will know about these Stabilo alls because they're my favorite mixed media item. And then here, this is by Caran. Here, let's hold it the right way like that. And this is a palette by Caran, and it's made for you to put out these paints like this, to put it on there, and then use your water to pick it up off the surface. You can see some staining here from the various colors that I've put on, and I'll show you how to use that. I use this a lot, a lot. It's the only one that I've found on the market that has the rough side and a smooth side. So I find that very helpful when I'm doing this. All right, we're going to go over top the table so that I can share with you actually how to do this. And so my Instagram is at Dietz Art, and Facebook, Tristina Dietz Art. Most of my posts go onto Instagram, and then I send them over to Facebook, right? And my website, which is dietzart.com. So that's where you can find me. Hold on just a second. It looks like I'm okay, not straight. That's better. Mo better. Mo better. Yay. All right. So again, here are the crayons. I have a massive collection of the crayons, but as I said, they have not shown back up from my move yet, which is infuriating. But thank you to Tatiana, who gifted me this set in the meantime, because I was complaining that I didn't have them, and I love them. They're definitely a mixed media artist's friend, um, especially. And you know what? Let me plug my phone in. So hang on just a moment. I have not plugged my phone in before, and then bada bing, it gave up on me, right? Oh, let's see. 2 minutes left on the giveaway. So please invite your friends if you're over on Whatnot so that they can come and participate as well. All right. So let's get what I wanted to show you first. Let's use some of the mineral paper because I love this surface so much. But you could be using your Bristol paper, or you could be using your hot press watercolor paper. Will act exactly the same as what I'm showing you here because this is a very smooth paper, and that's what we're going for. Oops, I have something here I'm going to drop on the floor. Ah! Okay. um, so it's super smooth, and I love it. I love it. It's so like forgiving and delicious to play on. So here, actually, first of all, let me show you here. So I had shown you earlier, these are the 84 colors that the NeoColor II come in, the crayons. And this set has 15 of the colors in it. So, oh, thank you, Shell Marie, for sharing the live stream. I appreciate it. Oh, 30 seconds left until we have a winner chicken dinner for this artist card that I made using the NeoColor II. Let's put it right there. And so with this chart that I made, here are the colors. They're very waxy when you put them down. This chart, this blank chart, will be a link in my article on my website. All right, if you want to look those up. And then here, I took a Sharpie and I made a black line through the middle. Oh, who won? Who won? Mark V. Congratulations, Mark. This is coming your way. Woohoo! Fantastic. Thank you for being here this evening on your Labor Day weekend. So here I printed a second copy of that. Oh, thank you. Mark says it's his first show. Well, congratulations. It's your lucky night. So on here, I use the Sharpie to get the black line. And then I put the colors in. I'm just using the colors to create a little line. So here I have three to do. I have the yellow, like this. So when you first put it down, just straight from the crayon, you're going to see if it's opaque. Like for instance, the black here is opaque. You cannot see the black line through it. And the yellow right here is transparent. You can see all of the black line through it. Now here's the orange, and I'm going to put the orange on there. The orange straight from the crayon is semi-transparent. So there, it partially covers up the black line. And then here's the vermilion. Let me make sure. No, this is the scarlet. Hold on, it got out of order there. This one is, they say right on the side what the color. There, let me do that so you can see. So it says vermilion right on the side there. And also there's a color number on there. Okay, so the vermilion is also semi-transparent right there. And then I'm going to add some water to that. So the easiest way to control your water for this exercise is to use a water brush. So this is a Faber-Castell water brush, which I think is really cool because it has this little plunger on it. And the plunger has two uses to it. I will show you. The first use is when you're filling this up, it'll come and this plunger will be down here. So all you have to do is undo the top like this. And there's a little teeny tiny hole there. So you stick that down in your water and you pull up on the back of it, and that will fill this barrel for you. It is so cool and so quick and easy. You don't need any other tools to fill it. But if you have a regular water brush like this one right here, this one's full, so I'm going to show you on an empty one. So here's an empty, and I use a dropper. So if you have a plastic dropper like this, then you can just put it inside there and bloop. I always travel with at least one plastic dropper because they just come in so handy for many different things. But now I've got water inside there and I can just go like that. Oops. Yeah. This is the ones from Japan, and the ones from Japan are threaded backwards from what we normally do. But now there's water in that empty one. Now with the Faber-Castell, if you feel the fibers and they're not wet, I just squeeze it and suck up the clean water. Oh, you can do that too, yes. You mean where you squeeze the side here and then suck up the water? Yes, you can do that. Now with this Faber-Castell one, the cool thing is that you can, as the water starts to go down, if you first open it and it's dry, you can pump it a tiny bit and it will force water down into here. Now you can also press on the sides. That's how a lot of them work. And that will also push water down. But I like when I'm first starting out a session, I just give it a tiny pump like that and it forces more water down into the tip. And then you're ready to go. All right, so let's put some water on these and we'll see what they look like when they're activated with water, because some of them that are opaque or semi-opaque, when you activate them with water, they're no longer opaque. So then I get all the color off on a paper towel. I'm going to squeeze a little bit more water into the tip so I can make sure the tip is clean before I go to the next color. So that's why these water brushes are really convenient, especially if you're traveling, because it's so easy to clean them out. Oh, I don't even have to, what am I doing? I don't have to, I'm an artist. I don't have to stay inside the lines. Come on. Okay, there we go. Squeezing a little bit more there. This is the vermilion. Now, what you're going to notice is that some of the colors leave a mark where the original mark was put down, and some of them don't. So some of them completely come up, and that's just the nature of the pigment itself. Okay, let's do the scarlet. And what I find with the scarlet, the vermilion has more of an orange look to it, and the scarlet has a little bit more, it's like you're going a little more pink here. And then the purple here. All right. Now, the funny thing is, they call this purple. It's a European thing. They call this purple, but I would call that magenta, right? But they call it purple. And then what I would call purple, they call violet. So here we go. I'm going to squeeze a little water into there. And then this is what they call violet. And the violet, you really have to work it to get the color up. But it leaves, you're going to see here, it leaves a little line. Can you see the little line underneath there? It leaves a line where the color was originally put down. Okay, let's do the next one. Just keep your paper towel handy. I like to rinse the top of the brush in some water. That really gets it cleaned out, especially when I'm doing swatching. I really don't want the previous color to contaminate my new color. So this one is ultramarine blue, and it does not like to release its color very well. What you'll notice is it leaves a heavy, heavy line where the blue was put down. It didn't release it. Okay, this is my favorite blue of all the blues, and that's the cobalt blue. Oh my gosh. Because to me, the cobalt blue very much reminds me of like seawater, that kind of thing. And so there's the cobalt blue. Oh, my favorite. My favorite. But the turquoise here is a close second. The interesting thing about the turquoise is it seems to have lots of white in it. And so it has kind of a milky look to it. The emerald green is a very strong green with like a blue undertone, you'll notice. So it doesn't look like a forest green. You see there? And then it doesn't release the color very well on this paper. It depends on the paper, by the way, whether it, whether it releases more easily or not. Okay, this is a yellow green, which releases beautifully. There's no line left there at all. And it's just a lovely. Oh, let's see, Salmon's Girl. I'm sorry if you answered this. Is there much difference in these and Woody's? Ah, okay, Salmon's Girl. Good question. What I explained earlier is that Woody's, which here's one right here, and I love them because they're nice and chunky and fun to hold and play with. These are also a water-soluble wax pastel, the Woodies. The difference is the Woodies were originally designed for children, although us artists got our hands on it and we love them. Okay? And I can do the same mark making with my Woodies as I can with the Caran d'Ache. So the difference is, there are a couple of differences. One main difference is that the Woodies only come in 18 colors and the Caran d'Ache come in 84 colors. So that's one main, major difference. The other difference is that the Woodies are designed for children originally, and so they don't have a particular light fast rating to the Woody. And what that means is that if you're going to use the Woodies in your art, you're going to need to be sure, and if it's professional art you intend to sell, you're going to need to varnish your artwork with a UV protectant because these are not designed to be light fast. Okay. And earlier I explained about the light fast ratings, the 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. 3 stars is excellent, up to 100 years. The pigment will stay vibrant. The 2 stars is good, and that means that 25 years to 100 years, the color will stay stable. And then the 1 star is fair, meaning, you'll get 25, 30 years, maybe 50 years out of the color before it begins to fade. Whereas both the Woody and the Marabou art crayons, and the Marabou art crayon has even more, a wider crayon there. These also do not have a light fastness rating. So if you're creating artwork and you're scanning or photographing the artwork and then using it for printing, have at it. Use all of these beautiful art supplies. But if you're creating artworks to sell the original artwork, make sure that you're using paints. And in this case, the Caran paints are light fast. They're only of this entire set right here that I have of 15, there is one item, 2 items in here that have 1 star. So this is the ochre and the violet have 1 star. Now, one of the tricks that I use to make my 1 star paints more light fast is I mix them with another paint, so another color that has an excellent light fast rating. So that way I've got a good middle ground light fast rating from my paints that way. They're less likely to fade if I take a violet and I mix it with, say, the scarlet, because the scarlet has a 3-star excellent rating and the violet has the 1-star rating. All right, I think that probably answered your question, Salmon Girl. Thanks for asking. Here's the ochre, which I'm shocked because normally ochre is made from minerals, stones. But for some reason, it's saying that this particular ochre has a 1-star light fast rating, which is really surprising. Okay, there we go. There's the ochre. And then they have a brown, which is good because when you have a small set, it's helpful to have a brown or a sienna so that if you want to do trees or something, you've got a brown that you can use for tree trunks. There we go. There's the brown. Now here's the black. The black is such a rich black. I love the black. There we go. Wow. Wow. Now on the white paper, when you add water, it starts to look gray, but it is still very, very, wow, there's a lot of pigment there in the black. And then with the white, uh, you're not going to be able to see the white against the white paper, but you can see it kind of makes the black a little bit milky there. What I do a lot to get grays is I use the black and the white together. And so I get my grays that way. Okay, so that was fun. That's how you can do some of the colors. And I had shown you before in this other book that I have. Well, which one is it? This one. Come here, you. You can do it. This one. So this is what I initially did with them. Put down, this is a watercolor paper. So I put down dry and then another little bubble. And then I made that bubble wet so you can see what they look like. And then I also did a couple of mixes. So I put here the ultramarine blue and the what they call purple, which I call magenta here. And then you get their violet type color there. And then here cobalt blue and yellow. And I get that kind of a green, which is like a mid-tone green right there, which is good to know that the cobalt and the yellow mix that kind of green, because here you only have the light yellow green and the emerald green, and that's not enough. Usually when you're painting, you usually need more greens. And so it's good to know that when you do mix the colors like this, you can get true what are called secondary colors. So that green is beautiful from the mix like that. All right, let's put these away and actually draw something. Let's draw something. Okay. So what I wanted to do with this was let's draw something out of one of these books here. Let me find my books. Oh, this is, you know, from last time that I very quickly lose things, even though they're sitting right next to me. Okay, okay, book. Come on, books. Where'd you go? That cracks me up. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I guess we'll just have to do it from memory since I don't know where I put my books, y'all. And I haven't left here, have I? I've been sitting here the whole time. Oh, I cracked myself up. Okay, one last look over here to see if the books are here. No, they're not. Okay, I don't know what I did, but let's go ahead and do a face. We're gonna use the techniques that, what's her name? Jane Davenport likes to use. This is making me nutso because I had the books and I showed them to you, and now they are nowhere to be found. This is too funny. Okay, but let's just go directly with these colors. And first, I'm going to do an outline. And so to do the outline, you can use a marker or you know, a permanent marker, or you can use a pencil of some sort. So let's use a fun marker. This is probably my favorite travel marker, and it is the Pentel brush pen from, let's see, Pentel. I already said that. Um, and the reason is because you can get cartridges to refill it. So when I'm traveling, you know, if you run out of ink, that would be a disaster, but it's super easy to carry one of these extra cartridges with you. And then you'll save yourself. Okay, so let's just do um, a basic, like basic face. We got an ear here. We're kind of looking off to the side. So the nose is coming here. Let's give her some, well, yeah, a little bit smaller lip there, bigger lip here. And then let's go with the eyes. Got a big eye here. And then of course over here, it's gonna look a little bit smaller because the head is off to the side, right? And then we want the hair to come like this, more hair to come like this. Why? Just because. Okay, there we go. Do you see why I love this pen? Oh my gosh, right? How fun is this pen? It's the best. It's the best. Okay, so neck, shoulders, and now we're ready to just play with some color, okay? That's why I love this pen because it gives you nice bold lines, super quick. It should dry pretty quickly, and then the ink is permanent. So let's do just some straight from here onto the surface. And we don't have to have skin tones or anything. This is our painting, so we can do whatever we want, right? So let me do something fun like orange. Oh, we can use this for like the cheeks here. This is going to be bigger over here. And then let's use some orange on the face for right now. Like that. So what I'm doing is using it on the side. You notice I'm not writing with it like this, although you can. I'm holding it on its side because I want to use the side of the tip and not the very tip right here as I'm putting more color out. Okay, scribble, scribble. Remember the Sarah Jane that I showed you earlier? And all the scribbling she does with her artwork. Oh my gosh, I love the scribble. Okay, and then the lips. Maybe we want the lips to be this color. And so I can put the color directly on like this. I don't have to wait. I don't have to get it wet. Let me put some white right here. See, that's the thing. The white is not really coming up white. It's good for blending or mixing with the white, but it's not making a mark at all. So if I'm going to preserve it there. Oh, this color is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. This one is the scarlet, I think. Yep. Scarlet. Okay. And then hair. What color hair do we want? Purple hair? Well, I call it purple. They call it violet, right? So maybe I want to do more scribble like this with the purple. Does she have some bangs here maybe? Let's put some bangs there. A little bit over the ear. Oh my gosh, this is like the best way to warm up, y'all, is to just grab these and do some scribbles. They're the best. Okay, so it looks like a hot mess right now. All right, but I am going to take a brush. In this case, like a medium head, a flat top brush. I'm going to put some water in it. Let's get this back out of here. I don't need my dropper anymore. So let's see how they work on the mineral paper. I'm taking a risk here because I haven't actually tried these on the mineral paper, but I generally start with the lightest color first. Wow, okay, this is working very well. And I can see that I didn't let the ink dry long enough, and the ink is starting to come up. So that just means you have to clean your brush more often. But because it's stone paper, I'm able to, it won't completely absorb. So I can go in and pick up that color that was on there. If I was using watercolor paper, it would be a lot harder to pick up the areas where I don't like the color. Okay, here we go. Right here. And it may be because we're on the stone paper as well that the ink wasn't staying put. If I use regular like watercolor paper, it will definitely stay put. So see how easy it is to activate on a surface like this. So your Yupo paper, your Duralar, your mineral paper, you see it starting to activate there. And the nice thing is you barely even see any lines. Do you see that? Like here's the scribble, and then here there's almost no lines. If I was working on watercolor paper, you'd still be able to see those lines for the most part. Okay, here we go. Let's get the rest of the face. Now, one of the things I noticed that you have to be careful of is don't get purple in with your orange, because this orange in particular, that's cool. Thank you, Salmon's Girl. This orange in particular has a lot of yellow in it. All right, meaning the undertone is yellow. Do you see how it, even though it's orange, it's a very light orange and it tends toward the yellow side. So let me show you what happens when you put yellow and purple together. But first, let me get my color wheel so I can show you. When you have a color wheel and you've got your yellow, what you'll notice is that violet, yellow, violet, violet is opposite yellow on the color wheel. What that means is that when you put a violet and a yellow together, you're going to get some shade of gray. Oh, what type of paper are you using? Thank you, creative Chris. Let me stop real quick and just let you know. This is by Yasutomo. Yasutomo. I love them. I love their stuff. Great quality out of Japan. Fabulous. So this is their mineral paper. So it's made from stone. Sometimes you'll find it referred to as stone paper. Mineral paper multimedia from Yasutomo, made from rocks. And that's why um, things are sitting on top. But to get back to this, the violet and the yellow, if I turn this around and in the violet, I put add yellow, look at what happens. I get like an olive greeny brown right here. Okay. So, yeah, so cool, right? Yes, I agree, Chris. Creative Chris. I agree. I agree. Very cool. I love stone paper. I've been using it for, geez, like 12, 15 years, something like that. Okay, so yellow and purple are opposite each other on the color wheel. And what that means is if you blend the purple and the yellow, you saw on the color calculator that I had there, that you'll get some form of olive or like a brown, right? Somebody asked, does the paper take longer to dry? Yes, it does. It does because it's stone paper, so there's no absorbing into the surface. Everything is sitting on top. So excellent question. So let's take this orange, which has a lot of yellow in it, here, and put some of the, what I call purple, what they call violets, in with it. Now, if I just blend the two together like this on the surface, you get a kind of a brown color in between. And then let's make that more intensified by adding the water to it. And you'll see it makes a brown. So it makes a purpley brown color. Now, that comes in very handy when you don't have flesh tones and you want to do a portrait. It can be very handy to have, to know that purples put together with yellows of varying degrees create browns. So let's use just the yellow right here. And then let's put that violet with it. Again, right on the surface, you're getting like a chocolatey brown right there. The two of them are giving you a kind of a chocolate brown. And then let's add a little bit of water and blend them together. Got more of a honey color because the yellow was a little bit lighter. But in both cases, you're getting variations of sort of a brown color. Now let's take this brown that I just made of the purple and the yellow and put it underneath the chin here, right? Because it's naturally going to be darker. Well, let's pick up the other one that I did too, because you know that under the chin is going to be darker. Whoop. What I like to do often is use the other colors that are within my composition and try to mix them together to create colors to use for other parts of the painting. So for instance, this, or under the neck, like that. Other parts of the skin. Okay. There we go there. And then let's go into the hair where it's so fun. Oh, no, I'm gonna do the pink. I'm gonna do what they call purple cheeks first. Okay. Because what they call purple is actually, in my opinion, kind of like a maroon color. It'll play well. It won't create a brown. It'll play well with this yellowish orange. So I'm always thinking about color mixing. Okay. And if it's too bright for you, if you go, whoa, that is too much, you can just take your damp paper towel and dab in there. And you can see you're picking up some of the color. Now, what I would do is I want to integrate that color kind of with the orange here. So I can pick up my orange crayon, and what a lot of people do is they will go to the back end of the crayon. So normally I draw with this end, but I can go to the back end and I can pick up color right from the back end of the crayon like this. Woohoo! So now I've got the color on my brush, and what I want to do is come in and integrate that pink a little bit, so kind of glaze the pink in with the rest of the face. And then we'll do it a little bit over here too, and get a tiny bit of water on there. But you'll be surprised how much paint you can pick up. Yeah, Salmon's Girl says, what? That works that way? You will be shocked how much paint you can pick up just from the end of the crayon. It's crazy. So I like the crayons for traveling. Like usually I will travel with acrylic markers, like the smaller version of these acrylic markers. Let me see, I have one here, like this. So I'll travel with acrylic markers and then with maybe a tin of crayons like this, because with just a little bit of water and a brush, I like the coverage or color density. Right? Mark, it's crazy. It's crazy how much color you can get off of them. They really are well done. Very well done. Yeah, and like here, I want this part to be a little bit more shadowy, right? Because it's I'm assuming there's light coming in from over here, so I'm going to make these colors a little bit darker over here. Super easy to blend. I mean, if what you're trying to do is create sketches, thumbnail sketches, something quick. Maybe you're plein air, meaning that you're on location somewhere and you want to just get down the image that you see. You can scribble with the crayons, like that artist that I showed you earlier. If you weren't here, let's see, Salmon's Girl, you weren't here earlier. Where is my Sarah Jane? Sarah Jane, come on, Sarah Jane. That's probably where my books are. Oh, there they are. Look at that. I actually found it. I found where I put them. So if you weren't here earlier, this artist, Sarah Jane Sayer, paints, and I'll put the link to her in the description of my YouTube video when the YouTube video is done. She goes on site with her NeoColors and she does her scribbles. Remember last week we talked about scribbling for mixed media? She literally takes these crayons with her and will scribble a scene, see, when she's plein air, so she's outside because she wants to get the essence. Of course, she has a much larger set than the set that I'm showing you of 15 right now, but she's able to quickly scribble the colors and get the idea down on site. No muss, no fuss, no water, no nothing, right? Tambry treasures. And, get the essence of what it is that she's looking at, quick and easy, and just using these. Now, I will mention that in the background here, I read when you read this post, she says that she was doing it on kind of a sage green paper background. So if you look here, the background of those marks is kind of a sage green. Yes, incredible. Exactly. So I love working on toned papers. And the one color I don't have yet of the toned papers is this sage green. And Claire Fontaine is a company that makes those. Does she hit it with water later? She might, but most of the time she's doing it quickly on site so that she can get the essence, the feel, right? The emotion of what it looks like. And then you can take photographs. And when you go back to your studio, you want to reference what was your emotion, your marks that you made on site. And then when you get back to your studio, this is also her. This is a piece where she's putting colors. She's including the paint that she's using together with some medium that allows her to spread it so that she's got some blocks of color in the background. And then she goes on with her mark making. And then she might fill in some of these spaces and that would be using water to add to the paints for the background, or another medium, like I'll show you in a little bit with the next one. And I know you weren't here earlier, which is why I wanted to show you Sarah Jane Sayer Paints and how amazing she is. I love her. I love her work. She's in England. Okay, aha, I found my books, so I'm going to make sure I keep them handy now. So beautiful. I know, I know, I know. I went to Instagram and I typed in NeoColor in the search field, and bing, up she came. And I'm like, I am in love with this woman. Oh my gosh. Her painting is amazing. Wow. Okay, so let's get back to this one. I'm going to, now we're getting somewhere for a sketchy sketch, right? Nice and quick. I like the way when you work on the stone paper or the Yupo paper, because it doesn't completely soak into the paper fibers, because this is, in this case, stone, and for Yupo and the Duralar, it's polypropylene, which is a kind of plastic, so it doesn't like imbue into the fibers. It kind of sits on top, but I like the look of the transitions when you're working on this kind of paper. And then, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a bigger brush for this, a softer brush. So y'all probably have bought sets of brushes and they have a fan brush in it. And you're like, when the heck am I ever going to use the fan brush? Well, I love to use the fan brush for, yes, Selman's Girl says, I like to use the fan brush for pine trees. It works great for pine trees. But for a circumstance like this, where I want to softly, I don't want to pick up all of the scribble of the hair. I want to leave some of the scribble there. So I want a brush with a soft bristle that I can just move over top of it and get the color, but not get rid of the idea is not to get rid of the scribble. And I have lots of different sizes. Oh my gosh, one of my favorites of of these is a teeny tiny one that I have, believe it or not. So this is a Princeton Select. And look it, can you see how tiny it is? It's teeny tiny, the top of it. But that's if I wanted to do that in a small space. And this is a wider one, and I have an even bigger, wider one for working on larger pieces. So when I'm doing animal hair, like the giraffe that I did, let me see, the giraffe is right here. So when I did Sophie the giraffe, hey, hold on, come here, Sophie. I show you right here on the hair. Now this is a small version of print, but you know the original painting is larger. Right here at the edge of the hair, I used one of these, not this one, a little bit bigger, and I pulled like this to get the little frilly hairs on the edge of her mane. So now you know how I did it. And it's using one of these fan brushes. Now I know what to use the brush for, right? Yes, now you know what to use it for. And in this case, so bringing the bangs down into her, I'll show you in just a second. You're going to be like, what? That is so cool. Yes, that's why there are all these different brushes, right? When you go to the art store and you're like, what the heck? What would I use all of those for? That's what they're for. All right, so let me bring it up. Now look at the bangs right there. Can you see how I used it on the bangs? Amazing. I use it for palm trees. Yes, it's excellent for palm trees, said Tom Bree Treasures. It's one of my favorites, right? Yes, that would work terrific for palm trees. Fantastic. All right, let's just give her some eyes and then we're going to move on. Actually, I'm going to use a little bit of the ochre here in the area around the nose because I just want to darken that just a little bit. And you can even take your finger. Now, I cut my index finger on my dog food can. Terrible, right? So I can't use my index finger, which I want to so badly. So I'll use my middle finger here. But the nice thing is, yes, you can take these and use your finger and smudge them. Now they don't smudge as well as an oil pastel. So remember I said that NeoColor makes, or Caran makes the Neo pastel. This is an oil pastel. This is a wax pastel. So if I take the oil pastel and I put it down, and let me clean my finger off here, and then I smudge the oil pastel, I want to show you the difference between the two. So this one is the wax pastel. It's harder to smudge. It will smudge, but it leaves some of the lines behind. This is an oil pastel, and all of the lines are gone when you smudge it. Okay, that's the difference there. And this NeoColor II is water soluble, and the oil pastel not water soluble. And if you weren't here before, there's actually something called NeoColor I. So this is also by Caran. They look exactly the same as the NeoColor II. But if you look here, the NeoColor II says NeoColor II, and then it says Aquarel after it. That means it's water soluble. And this says NeoColor I, and it does not say Aquarel, so it is not water soluble. And that can come in handy when you want to put down a design and then go over top of it with inks or something, and you don't want it to streak. You can put colors down and then put other colors over top of it, and it's not going to go anywhere if you're using the NeoColor I. So I feel it's important to have both the NeoColor I and the NeoColor II, of course, right? So here's some of the NeoColor I, and then let's try that smudge again. I've got the blue on there. All right, I have to use a different finger. That's what ends up happening, right? Ends up, it's like, okay, I have 10 smudgers, and then that's it. So I'm going to take a different finger. What you'll notice with these NeoColors, they are very stiff. So just like lots of different types of paints, you have items that are more stiff and items that are more soft. So in this, even in like my soft pastels, I have certain soft pastels that are hard, like the or the new pastel blocks. And then actually these are, I just happen to have some here. So this is a soft pastel in a block. This is going to be hard. So it's going to be difficult to smudge it. But then I also have pastels that are soft. So this is the Sennelier, and they are a soft pastel. And so they smudge a lot. So you see those there? These are so dang soft. I mean, the color just comes off on your finger immediately. So whether it's soft pastel, oil pastel, the crayons, you're going to have hard to soft. And so with the NeoColors, they are hard. And so here I'm having a hard time getting this to smudge. And this was the NeoColor I, the not water soluble. And it is not smudging very much at all. So, you know, you get to know what the properties of them are, and it may be that you don't want something to smudge, so it's perfect. All right, let's put some of the turquoise. Do we want turquoise eyes, right? We want her to have turquoise eyes, so I'm just going to go like this. We'll put the turquoise in here. And then here. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of the black in the middle. Yeah. And over here. There we go. It looks kind of freaky because of that turquoise right now, but you get the idea. That's working with the water solubility of these Caran. So let's go now um, to another piece. So that was fun using the mineral paper, right? Now we're going to do something that's more loosey-goosey. And we're going to do something that's more like Betty Frank's. So again, if you weren't here earlier, you did not see Betty Frank's work. Let me show that to you real quick. Again, Betty Frank's. There we go. And Betty Frank's loves using the woodies that we just talked about and the NeoColors, as well as all different other kind of paints, acrylic paints. But she does a lot of mark making in her work. And so she's using the water soluble wax pastels and regular oil pastels. There she is using one of the NeoColors, right? I think that's what it says. I think that's what it is in her hand right there. But that's Betty Frank's. And I like the way that she will do things on a dark background sometimes too. So this black, right, is fabulous. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some colors down, same color here and here, so you can see the difference in the effect. We're going to, before we do that, I want to show you this example of taking the NeoColors. This was using the ultramarine blue, so this one right here. And when I put the color down, like here, that is the what's called mass tone. In other words, that's the tone when you just put it on the straight onto the paper. But then, of course, you can add water to it. So here is the mass tone, or here's the tone when I've added water. Notice up here, there's a little area where there's some of the paint missing, and that's because I can work back into here and lift the color. Now I did this yesterday, but it's still lifting color right now. It's not going to completely come out, but it does lift color. So if you look there, you see how that's why you have to protect these once they're done. If this was a finished artwork and I was like, okay, that's done, I would spray it with my fixative, because if it gets one drop on it of water, it's going to begin to lift your design right off. And you don't want that. No, 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 don't do it. So they're a little bit sensitive to re-wetting, to getting wet again. So in order to make it not sensitive to re-wetting, to prevent it from coming up, you can either, as I said, spray it with a fixative, or you can mix the color like this directly into an acrylic medium. So what I've done here is I've tested several different mediums. I have a matte medium, which is something like this, acrylic base, matte medium. They dry clear. The mediums, when you look at an acrylic medium, it looks white in the jar, but when it dries clear. Unless it's something like this, a gesso, which is meant to be white. That is a white paint. So the matte medium, it's came out kind of streaky. I didn't really like the way that it looked adding matte medium to it. Clear gesso. So there's white gesso and clear gesso. And so that's why I did it with both the white gesso and the clear gesso. So this is the white gesso that I just showed you a second ago. And then this is the clear gesso. And I like using the clear gesso because it gives me both of them will give you a toothy surface to work on top of, which means that there's a lot of texture to the surface. The clear gesso gives you more tooth. It like ratchets up the tooth. There's a lot of tooth, meaning it's very rough, the surface right there with the clear gesso. But the white gesso is nice if you want pale colors. I love using the white gesso to get like pastel-y kind of colors together with them. And then here, this is a glazing medium. So a lot of times, if you like to work in layers, you want to glaze over an area, and there's such a thing as a glazing liquid or glazing medium. This is the one from Golden, and this is the one from Liquitex, and it says on it glazing medium. These have different types of sheens when they're dry. So this has a satin sheen, and let's see what this one says. Usually it'll say on it, extends color, gloss. So this one says gloss. So this will have a glossy finish, and this one would have a satin finish if you added that. So doing this exercise, what I'm doing is basically I'm just using this as a pigment stick and then combining it with these different mediums. This one right here is Bindex. So that comes in a tube like this. And again, it's just a clear acrylic medium. I actually like the Bindex the best. I like these are my three favorites right here. If I was going to combine it with acrylics. So let's go ahead. We're going to use the white gesso, and we're going to combine this with some white gesso. So first, to get some pastel-y kind of backgrounds, because here I want to put like a pastel background down here. Now, first of all, let me start by using a marker to do that. So these are acrylic markers. You see the Posca marker here, so I can put down, it's very difficult to get a bright, bright, bright white out of this. This is better for mixing with the other colors, as I showed you earlier. So I can take a marker like this with white, and this is water-based acrylic paint. Now, if I wanted to tint that, I could come back in with this. Don't worry about getting other paints on here. It really does not matter at all. Because you can just shave the end off if something happens and it stops coming off, you just shave it off. That's what's so great about using these color sticks together with acrylics, is that you can just go right through your wet acrylics and it doesn't matter because you can just shave it right off. I have right next to me here an X-Acto knife. So something happened and I had some acrylic on there, I'd just go bloop, bloop, shave that right off, and away I would go. That's why they work so well together with acrylic paints. Actually, these little shavings like this, I can put the shavings, and that's what happens if you need to sharpen these to work with them. You can take the shavings. It's pure pigment and it's water soluble, all right? The Aquarel NeoColor IIs, not the NeoColor ones. It won't work with the NeoColor ones, just the NeoColor IIs. It's like, no, don't throw those shavings away. Wait, wait, wait. You use the shavings and you create paint. So I create a watercolor paint if I put water in with it, and I create an acrylic paint if I put acrylic medium in with it, right? So this is one of my watercolor palettes. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water in here, and all of a sudden we end up with a watercolor paint. And it'll act just like your other watercolors. And when it dries, like this is watercolor over here, so when this paint is dry, I can reactivate it with a little bit of water, right? This is regular watercolor. I reactivated the paint, and now I can keep painting with it. The same is true here. If this paint were to dry in this little well right here, I could just reactivate it with a little bit of water and paint. Away I would go. Here we go. Paint. Just like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So here I put down some acrylic. and then I put some of the blue. So I'm just going to blend that in to get kind of a light blue pastel, right? Pastel color. There we go. On the black. So we've got sort of a pastel-y effect there. And then here, let's say that I want to put a bunch of this blue. I want to put a bunch of it there. I would take it. This was the palette that I told you about. There's a rough side and a smooth side. So I would just put some paint on here like this. And then I can pick it up with water like this. And then you can paint with it, just like that. So if you want to drop in a background, which is what I'm doing here, I'm just getting some color down. You have to watch it if you scrub, like I was just scrubbing, and you do get bubbles. So slow yourself down, take it easy. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh, it's so easy to get your color down like that. Now I can also, I mentioned earlier, I can get this wet like this. Just get the end of that wet, and then I can come in and it deposits lots of color if I do that. A lot more color if I get the end of it wet. And then here, I can spread that color out. What? I know, it's crazy. Crazy, crazy. Okay, you sold me. Now I have to buy some adult crayons. Well, Mark V, if you go to my website, as I mentioned before, on Whatnot, I sell my finished artwork. But on my website, I have blog articles and I have links to the art supplies themselves because I don't manufacture or sell the art supplies. So you can go to my website, deetsart.com, and go to the menu item called Supply Links, and then you'll find these crayons in the supply links. Remember, you want the NeoColor II if you want them to be water soluble, and NeoColor I if you want them to be more like an oil or a wax crayon. Okay, now I'm going to combine one of these colors. I like what they call purple and I call magenta. I want to get a kind of a pink. So I'm going to put some color down here. Oh my gosh. So beautiful. And then I'm going to just take a little bit of the gesso. Why not? Let's do the gesso here. Ooh. And I'm going to put a little, right? Because acrylic mediums and paints are water solid, or they have water in them. So here I can just combine the gesso on here. Oh my gosh, y'all, look at that. I have a gorgeous pink, just like that, just like that. So let me take, and so that is a like a pastel color. So let's put that out here. Wow, wow. If I want it to be a little more purple, I will, or a little brighter, I'll just add a little more color here, like that. And then that deepens the color a little bit. And then I'll just put that in here. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So that's combining it with your gesso or any other, you can put it with the titanium whites. You can put it with any other color of paint that you want. But that's why they really are mixed media crayons, and they're perfect for um, artists to play with if you like doing mixed media type work. So let's get this down on there. Oh my gosh. Now, I do suggest that if you use acrylic paint on here, that you take it up with water right away. Don't let it dry on there. It just, oh, it makes me so happy. The things that make an artist happy, right? Oh, okay. So what I'm going to do is clean this up right away with some water. I don't want to leave it on there Um, if you left it on there and it got hard, which sometimes I leave it on my brushes, you know, acrylic paint, and they get hard. Um, Alcohol is the solvent for acrylic paints. So I actually always keep alcohol right here because if I have to clean it, sometimes if I have a stubborn color or stubborn paint, I just use a little bit of alcohol on there, and that usually gets it off. You can soak your brushes. So if I got alcohol in here, you can soak your brush in a little cup of alcohol and then wash it with a brush soap after that. Or you can also use Murphy oil soap. So the Murphy oil soap will condition the brush fibers as well. And you could just put it in a little cup of Murphy oil soap overnight and then clean it, and that usually will clean it as well. Okay, so now I want to use a medium because here I use gesso, a white gesso. So instead of a white gesso, I want to use a clear medium now. So what color should I use? Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. Okay, I'm going to use this light green. Hey, Critter Chops, welcome in, welcome in. I'm showing how to use adult crayons. These are NeoColor water-soluble crayons by Caran. Hey, doing well this fine evening. I see it's raining outside, so I'm really happy to be inside hanging out with you guys, talking about art. Oh, Critter Chops, I had shown earlier your where I bought the NeoColor I, which are wax crayons, artist grade from you. These are not the ones that are not water soluble. And so if you're on Whatnot, go ahead and follow Critter Chops because he has some really nice art supplies that he sells sometimes on his channel on Whatnot. Hey, Consign Servco, welcome in, welcome in. So I have some of the light green. If I added white to this light yellow green, it would get really, really, really light, right? So I can prevent it from getting super light by adding a medium to it instead of adding white. So let's do the matte fluid medium from Liquitex. So this is fluid and it is an acrylic based medium. So let's just put a little bit, a drop or two. Now notice the drops look white, but when it dries, it's going to be clear. So this is a clear medium and it's going to have a matte finish to it. Let's see, which brush do I want to use for that? Back to this one. This is a Royal and Langnickel. Oh, yeah, Craft Smart by Royal, which is Royal Langnickel. And they have these little rubber sections right here that make them super easy to hold. These are fabulous brushes, y'all. I really like them. And then they're like a tack-on filament. Okay, so now I've got the medium, the matte medium, mixed with the color. So it's not going to change the color. It's just going to give me that color. It will make the color a little more translucent, but that's okay. It's okay for green to glaze over top of another color, right? Let's glaze some of the green over that turquoise. Oh, that's cool. I like it. Okay. And if I wanted this to be a little bit heavier or darker green, what could I do? I had shown earlier where you can mix the colors together to get other colors. So let's put down some yellow. Like that. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you get acrylic on this. You can shave the acrylic right off if the acrylic dries on there and get back to the pigment underneath it. Okay, so here is the yellow. And then my other favorite blue is this cobalt blue. Love the cobalt blue. So I'm going to put a little bit of the cobalt blue in, not too much. Let's see what we get. Get a little bit of water there. Let's see what color green we get. All right, that's a little bit heavier green. Let's put the acrylic medium in there. And now this green's going to be darker green. I'm going to bring it up so you can see. So now that green is this green is much darker than this green. So this was the green right off of the crayon right here. And this is the mixed green that we just made using the cobalt blue and yellow. So yes, you can mix your colors together and apply them like this. Let me put a little bit of this over here. Now, because I use just a regular matte medium, I did not use gesso. Gesso is white, um, or clear, or black, or red. Gesso comes in all different colors. But if I use the white gesso, then it gives me more of a pastel effect, like down here. But if I try to take this green, which is very transparent because I used the clear, and put it on the black, you're going to lose it. You're not going to see it at all. So you see there? Where is it? Where's the green? I don't see the green. Let's mix a different green using this turquoise. And I'm going to use the emerald green. Do you do paper crafting? Critter chops, not so much. I like to paint on paper, and I like to use paper for collage. But in terms of paper crafting, not so much. What do you have? What do you have? Maybe I should ask that question. Okay, so here's a beautiful color that I mixed, but, oh, you know what? I want to add some of this to it. But it's opaque. And I want it to become it's translucent, and I want it to become opaque. So I'm going to add some of the white gesso to it. So you can see I have white gesso next to me at all times. Actually, right next to my table here, I have a little stand, and there's a whole shelf on the stand for all my different gessos. There we go. There's the white gesso. So let's mix this in with the white gesso. And then I'm getting a pale color. I actually need a little bit more of this emerald right here. Let's put some more emerald in there. Like I said, if this gets it on there, I'm just wiping it off on a cloth. And if it gets hard on there, I just shave it off. And so it won't hurt at all. 20,000 worth of vintage rubber stamps. Oh, I do love rubber stamps, critter chops, depending on what they are. My favorite are Asian ones, and ones that have writing on them, like they look like they're writing. Okay, so now we've got kind of a green with that white. Now when I put the green on here, you can see it because I put white in it, and it looks like a pastel green, right? So that's how you can use them to pigment, and use your white to add to your dramatic black background. I like leaving plenty of the black available to be shown or seen, because that just adds so much drama to your pieces. Okay, so we've laid down some color, and of course I have to clean this off right away because I don't want it. Salmon's Girl says, when is that show, Critter Chops, over on whatnot? She wants to know, when are you going to do that? Let's put some of this up here because I like that minty color that we created. I don't see Critter Chops answering. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't scheduled the show yet. Oh, okay, nice. I'm doing this for a purpose because now we're going to go in maybe a month. Yeah, that is a crazy amount to sort through. Critter chops for show. Okay, another thing you can do is take your spray bottle, spray it down before you wipe it off to be sure you get all the acrylic off of there. Because what did I do? I used acrylic medium and I used the gesso, both acrylics on there. Okay, here we go. Get that off of there. So this is back to being clean. What? Okay, now at this time, I've got nice paint on there. I can go back with a marker. So this is by Edding. I love this color. It's like a mint color again. So I can come in here. This is acrylic. And I can just go right on top of here and make some marks. Kind of like hashtags there. And it doesn't show up very much on the white, that minty color. You see there? But it will show up better on the black. Yes. More drama. More drama. More drama, mama. Okay, so that is just an acrylic marker. This is where the mixed media part comes in, right? Here's this Caribbean blue, which is fabulous. Anyone named gets a super deep discount. Hey, Critter Chops. Thank you, Critter Chops. I love your goodies. Like I said, I always tell people to go follow you. I got these from you. I got so many cool things from you. All right, this is a Caribbean blue. So again, on here, how's it going to show up? Wow. It's dark on there. Here, it doesn't show up so much on the black, but when you have this pastel stuff here, it'll show up really well on the pastel surface. Notice I'm not being careful. I'm not creating lines. I'm having fun with it. This white is probably the best white acrylic marker I've ever found. Ah, thanks for the hearts. And it's by Pebeo. It's their acrylic markers. And the white is phenomenal. So let's put some out there so you can see. We'll put it on the black since it won't really show up. Well, let's see. It might show up somewhat. Brink. It shows up a little bit there on the pastel, but it'll show up a lot more with the blacks, the black background. Yeah, it does. It shows up nicely on the darker. Let me see if I can get somewhere where it's black. And then you'll see what I mean. It shows up beautifully. So there it is on the black. And up here, there it is on the white and pastel background. Okay, so then part of the way through, I often grab my heat tool to make sure that everything is drying. But of course, you don't have to use that. You don't have to worry about that too much with the Caran, which is terrific. Okay, that's just to start it drying. Now, what if I take one of these? This is the NeoColor I. And so let's make a mark with the NeoColor I and a mark with the NeoColor II. If you're using it as a wax crayon, you're essentially going to get the same marks. So here, I like to put little dots and dashes on things. There we go. So that is using the red. Let's see what color it says it is. It is light cadmium red. And then here, we'll do it down here as well. The red won't show up as well with the dark background as it does here with the light background. But then there are other colors that show up well on the dark background. Let's do Another color that'll show up well on the dark background. Of course, this light green. Let's clean the tip of that. There we go. And so with the light green up here, let's see what kind of marks we can get. It doesn't show up a lot on the this background because of the pastel-y. It'll show up well on the whites. Okay, so there we go, a bunch of dots. Dots, I like dots. And then let's come down here. It should show up better here on the dark because this is a light color. It actually doesn't show up very well on here either. Let's try the yellow, which is really bright. Let's see if the yellow shows up. Yeah, the yellow shows up better. And if you're not having the yellow come off well, do what I did before, just dunk it in the water, and that'll release more of the paint. And then oftentimes that'll help you get the paint out there, off of there more easily. It'll help the paint flow. Let's see how it looks on the black. Yeah, I like it on the black background. Okay, so that was using the yellow. So this is essentially what I do if I'm doing a mixed media piece, similar to what she did here. You're building up your background and then creating marks on top and layering and layering and more layering. I would just keep going. I want to show you one last thing, and then we're going to do the giveaway and get started on the auction. So this is by the company Lyra out of Germany, but as a holder, you press the end and a little teeth come out. It's a holder. So as your crayons get shorter, there are just like if you have colored pencils and your pencils get shorter, there's something called a pencil holder or a pencil extender. So this is an extender for your crayons. And so for instance, if I take this, I can extend it out all the way and put the crayon in there. And then if this were super short, I would have a nice extender for it. What's happening here? It's for some reason it's not tight on there. I don't know why. It normally would grip it tight. I must have stretched it out. Yeah, it's not working right now. Okay, so I must have stretched it, and so it's not holding on as hard. But this is a way for you to be able to then extend it and come in and make your marks with a shorter piece if you have an extender of some sort. And let's make these a little fatter. And once, if it's wax like this and you have not, the crayon is skinny. Yes, it is kind of skinny. But there are all different holders that you can get. This is one that was recommended to me for these, but it may work better for the NeoColor. Yeah, it's going to hold that. Yep, it grips that firmly. So what this, hey, Crazy Junk Art, I mentioned you earlier because of some postage stamps that I used in some of my pieces that were using the postage stamps that you had sent me. So thank you very much. Okay, so here is, I had shown earlier, this is an oil pastel. This is a wax crayon, and this is an oil pastel. This oil pastel is not water soluble, and it is the right size to fit into here and grip. So artists like Betty Franks that I had shown earlier, she does use oil pastel. Juliet Crane that I showed you earlier, she also uses oil pastel. So this is the Caran oil pastel. and it is holding in the holder. So I could come here and maybe make some marks. What you're going to see is that the oil pastel gives you a different kind of mark. And this oil pastel is not water soluble. It's not. So here, I love the broken color lines that the oil pastels give you. So you saw that Betty Franks had marks like this, like she'll make little squares and then maybe she'll come back in. This is another oil pastel and put some color on the inside, or I could come in with a wax pastel. You'll just see the oil pastels are a little creamier, so I usually use the oil pastels as my last layer on top because they're not water soluble, these oil pastels, and but they give really cool finishing. Like here you see the finishing special effects. It's like chunky and creamy. Oh, they're so pretty. Like there, that one has the oil pastel square and the oil pastel on the inside. So you can see how the oil pastel helps to finish it off. But I start with these harder crayons first and build my the look of my piece. Then I might go in with acrylic markers, and then at the very end on top, I use oil pastels like this. Maybe, maybe not, but I do. I love the look of the oil pastels. All right, that is it for the workshop. And I really appreciate everybody who joined me for the workshop portion of the show over both on YouTube and on Whatnot. I am going to start the auction part of the show on Whatnot now. So if you are on YouTube and you'd like to join us over on Whatnot, feel free to scan the QR code at the top of your screen or go into the description of the video and click, and it'll bring you over to Whatnot, where I'm going to start the auction with some new pieces. And we're going to start the sale portion of the show with a giveaway, of course. So let me put these away. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you earlier, but inside this little package that I got of the NeoColor IIs, there's a brochure and it shows all 84 colors there of the NeoColor II water soluble. The thing is, this doesn't give you the light fastness ratings like the link that I showed you that'll be on my that'll be in the article on my website. And then here is the NeoColor I. There are 50 colors. These are the non-water soluble, and there they are right there in the brochure. So lovely, lovely, great company. Love them. Let me go ahead and get the, let's get the Givey started. And so this Givey I created this week, and it uses the NeoColor II crayons. Here I did a little block, I like to make frames around my postage stamps. And the postage stamps, I received compliments of crazy junk art. So thank you, crazy junk art. This is one of the stamps that I got in the pack that you sent me. They are fabulous. I love them. And so I built this collage on top of a piece of paper with an acrylic background. This is a blank card, an envelope, and the information on the postage is on the back. I do like to research the postage, and this is a 1974 Hungary postage stamp. And then I found a little bit of text from a poem in that poem book that I have, and put that on there. So that is the Givey for tonight, the second Givey for tonight. The first Givey, if you weren't here earlier, was this artist card. So it's all, this mushroom is done using the NeoColor II and water. And then I used a marker to put the little snail on top of it. And this is one of the postage stamps from Crazy Junk Art. So if you're on, oh, thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Crazy Junk Art. So if you are on Whatnot, I would encourage you to follow also Crazy Junk Art. Okay, so that was already given away earlier. And so this is the giveaway now while I reset my table here to get ready for the sale. So, oh, I love the way I love the way these turn out. I'm gonna have so much fun finishing these, and then these will be available for sale next week at next week's show. Oh my gosh, they are so cool. I think right now this is my favorite of the two, but you never know what magic I'll work on this one, and then oh, Crazy Junk Art doesn't sell anything. Ah, okay, Crazy Junk Art, you just like to come and I like the bottom one. See, Crazy Junk Art likes the drama of the black in the background, right? Oh, and it will become something fabulous. I promise. I promise. You know what? I am going to show you one more thing before we move on to the sale. Now, this is working with these NeoColor IIs, and I put the colors down. In some cases, multiple colors, like here to get the green, I did the cobalt blue and the yellow, and used water to activate them. And then I wanted to lock this into place before um, putting more pastel on top. Remember how I said you can lock it into place either by spraying it with a fixative, or if you've activated it with water, it will still lift. But if you're quick about it, you can put paint back over top of it and lock it in. So this actually has clear gesso on it, clear gesso. And I do that, and then I go back over top of them with soft pastels. I have a whole series of artworks where I start like this with geometric shapes, and then I go over top of it with dry pastels or oil pastels. But in the past, I've used dry pastels. So this is a tree that's going to have some uh, owls in it. And I drew it using the NeoColors, and then I activated the NeoColors with water so that they don't completely set. They will lift a little bit. But, oh, 30 seconds left. Somebody's going to win. I don't know who's going to win, but somebody's going to win the card. And so what I did afterwards was I took the clear gesso, and you can use any of the acrylic mediums, but I took the clear gesso and I just poured it on there, and you'd be like, aren't you going to ruin it? Nope. Just do that. Then I use a palette knife. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Who's going to win? Sissy Ann. Congratulations, Sissy Ann. This is coming your way. It's an original work of art. It's a collage, and it's has the envelope, and it'll have an artist biography with it. Okay, so here I just put clear gesso on there, which is an acrylic medium, and now I'm using a palette knife. And you don't want to work it too much, because the more you work it, the more likely that you are to lift the colors. But as long as the colors are initially activated with water, they pretty much stay in place. And you can see here that I'm putting the color down. I'm putting the clear on top. And for the most part, it's not moving what's underneath. And then once it's dry, all the colors, the top layer will dry clear, and everything that I put in the background is locked in place. And then I can put whatever color paints, do my next layer on top. So that's how I lock it in. before and build more layers. That's truly mixed media. And now I'll be able to work on top of that um, in order to create the owls, right? I have Halloween on the mind, I think. And so I want to create a couple of owls there, but I wanted to lock that basic drawing. So you can do your basic sketch this way and then lock it in either with a spray, like I could have sprayed it, or with the acrylic medium, some acrylic medium, and then work right over top of that once that's dry. Okay, now I really am done.